Punch-Out is hard. You have to stay on your toes and find creative ways to deal with the other boxers. But for all of Punch-Out's strengths, player expression and a breadth of options to deal with your opponents are not among them. This brings us to Smash, where the main design philosophy of Mac the Underdog has endured much to the chagrin of his mains across the world. It's no secret that Mac struggles in Ultimate, with most players placing him squarely in the bottom 5 of the roster. Necessarily, those who play Mac have to be creative in their approach to each matchup, looking for opportunities to strike wherever the opening arises. Ultimate, however, gives Little Mac the tools to play in terrifying and varied ways that not even Mike Tyson would have been prepared for. And no two players show off Mac's wide array of options as much as the two best American Little Macs, Peanut and Alternis. The two have a lot in common. They're both young, smart, funny, fun-to-talk-to guys who fell in love with Mac's playstyle but understand how he's limited as a character. They're also both from MDVA, so they fight for the title of Best MDVA Mac on what feels like a weekly basis. They have a healthy and friendly rivalry that has resulted in some amazing head-to-head sets already, and they teach each other how to deal with Mac's rough matchups and improve at a frankly astonishing pace. And while they do have many similarities, down to their ult of choice, their playstyles could not be more different. That discrepancy starts as soon as the match does, with movement. Alternus is generally the more aggressive player, but as anyone who has played Punch-Out knows, just mashing at your opponents is not a strategy conducive to success. What he does is runs to the area right outside of his opponent's threat range, then darts around right outside of where he can't be hit, looking for an opening. That opening can come in a few ways. A whiffed move by the opponent, an obvious movement or attack choice leading to a hard read, or a mishandling of the pressure that Alternus creates, be that a bad jump or a panic shield. Now, bait and punish is a staple of Mac gameplay at every level, but Alternus creates those scenarios by forcing options and creating pressure scenarios that cause his opponents to crumble. Peanut, on the other hand, causes those interactions by making you want to throw your controller at him. Peanut causes those interactions by camping you. I know what you're thinking, how is that even possible? Little Mac certainly gets camped, but how could a character with small hitboxes, no real aerials, and no projectiles camp you? Look at this clip of Peanut versus Waluigi, an excellent Snake player on the MDVA PR. Peanut starts slow and is at a slight percent disadvantage when he retreats to the right battlefield platform and waits. Peanut counters and waits for a committal option from Snake. He gets it when Waluigi fires a Nikita missile, and then, in the chaos, Peanut has an opportunity to create platform pressure and close out the stock with a KO punch. Let's compare this to Alternus' set versus Unlucky, another good Snake player. The stage choice, which will be talked about more later, is PS2, which has more open space for both characters to be aggressive, and the lack of a top platform means that the game is going to be much more grounded and there's less space for either character to hide. The first stock is gone within 30 seconds because Alternus immediately corners his opponent, then makes some quick and simple reads and uses max frame data and armor to evaporate Snake as soon as he commits to an option. Both situations involve the classic punch-out, float, and sting, but Alternus is there to create pressure, force mistakes, and capitalize. Peanut is much more patient and much more true to the original Punch-Out. Wait for your opponent to whiff, and then go bananas. Once either Mac gets a hit, they get to go into the Little Mac dream state. Advantage. Watch this stock from Peanut against Schneigli, one of the best Bowsers in the region. After a solid edge-trapping sequence by Peanut, he converts each of his tilts into follow-ups. Down tilt into F tilt, down tilt into side B twice, up tilt into a tech chase setup, and finally up tilt into up B on the top platform to take the stock. All of these are the optimal, guaranteed punishes for Peanut to go for in these situations, and they're what he's grinded out playing Mac online for so long. Now, when we look at a stock from Alternus against the same player, he does the classic push your opponent into the corner that he does, then lands a down tilt, then, just like Peanut, he... Wait, what was that? A faster F tilt or side B would have connected, so why is he just leaving those open? Now Schneigli just jumps back and uses Flame Breath and is able to get his own advantage started. This must have been a mistake, right? But here we are now near the end of the stock when Alternus lands a down-angled F-smash and chases Schneigli into the corner. But look, Schneigli already showed his hand last time. When given an opportunity out of disadvantage, he wants to use fire to scare his opponents and keep them off of him with a big and long-lasting hitbox. Alternus knows this because of his previous conditioning and immense game knowledge, and swings through with an F-smash to take the stock. From then on in the set, Schneigli was slow to use Flame Breath because of the fear that Alternus created. Even after a switch to Terry in Game 2, he showed that same understanding of baits in order to keep up his constant pressure. He trusts his gut and makes hard reads on his opponents, and it works out much more often than not. It's why his tech chases are so good and why you can never, ever count him out. And this is not to say that Peanut doesn't have sauce. This play from his set versus Joj that was actually featured on the VGBC YouTube channel is one of the coolest things I've seen in a little while. It's just that he's much more surgical in his pressure, both in neutral and in advantage. Now, let's talk about some more niche aspects of their gameplay. First and foremost is stage choice. Peanut relies on platform movement as a part of his game plan. Before MDVA switched to a stage list without Yoshi's story, Peanut could reliably force games to Battlefield, Yoshi's, or another stage where he could take full advantage. He loves triplats, which is against the general logic of Mac hates platforms and he gets camped. As previously mentioned, there comes a point where Peanut's opponent realizes that they're the ones being camped, and they have to go chase after one of the game's fastest characters. Coupled with his excellent maneuvering around platforms and an eye for committal options, Battlefield, rather surprisingly, melds perfectly with Peanut's strengths as a player. He also has slowly but surely become one of the best platform tech chasers in MDVA. His plat locks with max weak aerials have some ridiculous setups, and even tech chasing options with an up smash or a jump to platform and smash attack are so deadly that as soon as Peanut hits you with any tilt above 80%, you're as good as dead. It can still cause problems, especially when Peanut gets behind early against a character with good mobility, but his ability to weave through platforms is as good as anyone's, and it shows in set after set against some of the best the region has to offer. It's worth noting too that against zoners, platforms give you more approach avenues, more places to land, and more places to hide from projectiles. So Peanut's not alone in his lack of love for FD. Alternus mostly prefers to play on PS2, Town, or FD where there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Alternus plays fast enough that he can force people into the corner, and it's harder for his opponent to make it out of the corner without the aid of the top platform. The wide stages give him space to run around and bob and weave. Alternus can also kill with a tilt around 80%, but it'll be a tech chase on the ground that does you in. Mac ain't no air fighter after all. The only place where either player has a definitive edge as Mac is in the skies. Alternus does a really good job of keeping his back to center stage, so it's rare that you have to see him do a difficult recovery, and he mainly goes for 2 frames at the ledge and has very solid ledge trapping. Peanut, however, became whatever the Smash Bros version of famous is, with terrifying aerial jab locks, slip counter edge guards, and seemingly impossible recoveries in Wi-Fi tournaments. He makes Little Mac's air game look, well, still bad, but at least viable and scary. Certainly something you have to look out for lest you end up in one of many Twitter clips. Peanut is also fully aware of Mac's limits. His airspeed, aerial up B tech options, and his lack of big hitboxes he can use to protect himself while recovering. Both of them are rarely edge-guarded, as they don't jump too fast, they don't panic off stage, and they don't use Little Mac's horrible air dodge unless they're right at the ledge. Lol just back throw Mac off stage has never been a less effective strategy than it is against these two guys. It's also worth noting that, while not wholly relevant to a Little Mac analysis, that Alternus has a handful of secondaries. His squad strike team is strong, and beat Ned at glitch 8.5. Terry is his strongest and acts closer to a dual main, but his best character is still absolutely Mac. He also plays the Pits and Hero both to strong success. He plays Terry similarly to Mac, which is to say, kick ass first, ask questions later. He uses it to deal with matchups that just look ugly to watch for Mac, like Luigi, Pac-Man, or Bowser. It definitely makes his option coverage better, and bracket luck is much less of a factor for exactly that reason. Finally, there's KO Punch. That beautiful ding-ding heard around the venue combines satisfaction and danger in a way that few natural phenomena can match. It's almost as if you can feel your character's ribs break when it lands as you watch your chances at a win evaporate just as fast. You'll never guess who's more aggressive with KO Punch. That's right. Alternus' pressure setups are absolutely buffed by having a frame 9 uppercut with super armor that can and will kill you at 30%. His down tilt setups and down angled F smash conditioning give Alternus a download on his opponent that he cashes in on time and time again. Off the Angel platform, I've personally seen him use down-angled F-smash into KO punch on rollout and roll-in on tech in place or on heavies. He's the guy you're going to see use raw KO punch more often, and it hits a shocking amount of the time. Peanut, of course, uses these setups too, but as is customary for the kid, he's not going to run into your face to use it. If he has KO punch and his opponent is above 65%, he's probably not going to use it on that stock at all. What you might realize about 4 or 5 games into playing friendlies with Peanut is that he's not really using the KO punch to hit you with it. He's using it to create fear. When KO punch is out, you have to play around it because you know that no matter what you do, if you mess up, you just die. Peanut realizes this. It makes you think just for that one extra moment about your option, and in that hesitation, that's where he finds an opening. You avoid the setups just to take 60% from an F-smash conversion, then, just when you think you can approach because he's not actually going to throw it out, he knocks 8 of your teeth out and kills you at 26%. Anecdotally, at least, Alternus hits more KO punches, but Peanut wins neutral more when KO punches out, and it's infuriatingly difficult to say which one is better. Is Peanut getting too cute with it? Maybe. But a player that plays so atypically defensively, having such an interesting use of his character's best tool and the mind games that it creates is so crushing. Should Alternus slow play his KO punch strategy more? Maybe, but the fear that Alternus creates comes from the aggressive playstyle that is the crux of his neutral and punish game. He's not the player that will stand around and wait for the opening. He's the guy that creates the opening. So, what does all of this mean? Who's the better player? What playstyle is better? So far, the two have played in 5 sets, all at locals where Peanut is up 3-2, but with low stakes and all of the sets seeing Alternus pull out secondaries. Alternus actually won both of his sets 2-0 with Donkey Kong, a character that he insists he doesn't play. That's not a great barometer of who's better, especially since most high-level dittos aren't indicative of skill as much as matchup knowledge and who will flinch first. Let's look at how they fare versus the MDVA region's finest. Neither player was quite able to crack MDVA's top 20 during the first post-lockdown season, but both made it onto the end-of-year PR at rank 19 for Alternus and rank 17 for Peanut. But as 2022 rolled in, Peanut focused more on going to majors and streaming, and even when he did go to locals, controller problems and a slump meant that he wasn't able to make it back onto the April version of the MDVA PR. Alternus, on the other hand, stepped up his game, farming the MDVA region with Terry, Pitt, and Mac and finishing 7th in MDVA, and was the 4th highest rated player from Virginia, a 12-spot rise from his last season and 10 spots higher than Peanut was ever able to make it. Maryland and Virginia decided to split up their PRs, and Peanut has had plenty of time to gain ground on his fellow yellow Mac, and terrorize Maryland along the way. During the summer season, Peanut finished 5th on this version of the Maryland Power Rankings, and Alternus finished 7th on the Virginia rankings. So, this season, Peanut wins, right? Let's add up the score at the big boy tournaments. Because Alternus rarely ever travels outside of MDVA, there have been 6 majors where both Macs have played. Glitch 8.5, SmashCon Fall Fest, Glitch Infinite, Pound 2022, SmashCon 2022, and Glitch Regen. The first was Glitch 8.5, which wasn't a banner tournament for either player. Peanut finished 65th and Alternus finished 97th out of 421 entrants, which are respectable, albeit unspectacular performances. Peanut went 2-2, but astoundingly lost to Dark Wizzy and Charlie the King, who was sent into losers during pools by Bacon, sending the bracket into shambles. Alternus won 4 sets, but did most of it through losers, and eventually fell 2-1 to Lavish, who went on to beat Cola at his next major. So, that's 1 point for Peanut. Up next, we have a much more exciting story. SmashCon Fall Fest, which could be seen as both players' breakout tournament. The 769, nice, player bracket was chaotic, but both Peanut and Alternus rode the wave with one of the least consistent characters in the entire game. Alternus was white hot, beating Cyro, Naito Sharp, and DM. He lost to the MK Leo Slayer Kurama and PGRU V3 number 7 to Buzz to finish at 25th out of 769 total entrants. Peanut had a much less traditional run, and he had to crack off 6 straight set wins where he didn't drop a game to make top 48 after losing a round 1 pool's nail-biter to Demento, a very strong Aegis player from Alabama. Peanut beat Rel Wood and Fancy, the players who eliminated Demento, before finally falling to PGRU number 19, Yanni, at 33rd. So Alternus returns serve on his home court in Virginia. That brings us to Glitch Infinite. Alternus was one frame away from the upset of the year, taking Light to Game 3 after being 3-stocked in Game 1. He was literally 1 or 2 frames from connecting with KO Punch to take the set. Interestingly, he said that he had a read on Light where Light was naring out of his combos throughout the whole set, and he expected to see it on that last confirm, but Light being Light switched things up right when he needed to, jumped away, and broke the hearts of every low-tier hero watching. He ended up getting 65th with solid wins over Real Steel, McBanana, and Mage King, an impressive placing after being seeded 127th out of the 600-plus players in attendance. Peanut had no such luck, again getting a rough bracket where he got flattened by Jazzo and Jackal to take 97th. So that's 2-1 for the Virginian, but up next we have Pound, and spoiler alert, this one ends in a tie. Yes, we know that ties are the worst, and neither player was especially happy with how they played. Peanut lost to legendary villager Kept, in a matchup that isn't as bad as you think and some players would consider Mac favored, as well as Ohio Joker main Non, in a matchup that is, and I can't stress this enough, just as bad as you'd think. He got a good win over Beef, the New England Sonic main, but still, it was another missed opportunity to get a point back, with Alternus getting a good win over Melon and losing to Icy Mist and Omart. That keeps the score at 2-1 for Alternus and brings us to the first and only major where Peanut and Alternus have finished more than one seed line away from each other. Alternus finished 129th with respectable losses to Sonido and Concon, but he was able to pull off solid wins against Cam Steele, Ro, and Kabi. Peanut had a friendlier bracket, matchup-wise, and that was all he needed to start making some upsets. He pulled off one of the most impressive upsets outside of top 32, where he beat Jazzo, who had previously crushed him back at Glitch. He then took out Capitancito to make top 128 on winner's side. Despite losing to Mudace and Geist, his 2 big upset wins showed the world at large that this kid was for real. He finished in 65th place, and we're all tied up again. All in all, the numbers didn't help. We here at PGstats are left without significant statistics to determine a winner. What it comes down to is this. Alternus creates pressure situations to try and force mistakes. He's aggressive and pushes Mac's kit to its limits to make his opponent uncomfortable, and as soon as he smells the blood in the water, he pounces. He trusts his instincts and will live or die by the sword, but might lose to people who won't fall for the mind games he plays in advantage. He's like an F1 car with a howitzer cannon taped onto the top that can kill you off of one neutral win. His wins against Puppe, Sharp, and ZD indicate that this is a strategy that can work at the top level. And the more opportunities Alternus gets against those top players, the more likely he'll be to finally cash in and make his opponents cash out. Peanut is different. He's slow, methodical, and optimal, with enough sauce to make it count when he finally strikes. Peanut understands the limit of the character and almost always gets the guaranteed damage that he feels he deserves. If he gets a lead, he's nearly impossible to approach safely, and his mind games in neutral make you hesitate just enough that if you get caught, you'll die. His playstyle is much more like a beautiful dance done by a serial killer. He moves gracefully, making the tightest of conversions look like nothing, but he's patient, waiting for you to make one little mistake. A whiffed move, the slightest miscalculation, and the next thing you know, your stock has disappeared. But can he make that work against the top level of player? The ones that make very few mistakes and know their characters like they know family? We'll no doubt find out soon, as he's on a meteoric rise, committed to traveling and accepting all challengers. What do you think? Who is the MDVA King of Mac, and whose style do you like better? Drop your explanation down in the comments section below, and make sure you subscribe to PGstats to keep up with all of the Smash action, be it Ultimate or Melee. Thanks for watching. My name is Last, and I do so hope you've enjoyed this video, and, as always, I'll see you next time.